Tonight, the story that no one expected to see unfold on live television. The moment when calm professionalism met royal defiance. And the world watched NBC nightly news shift from polished reporting to something raw, unscripted, and unforgettable. Welcome to Story Vault, where every headline hides a heartbeat and every broadcast holds a secret waiting to be revealed. The night began like any other. The cameras were steady, the lights were perfect, and Lester Holt, America's trusted voice, prepared to close another broadcast that had already covered the wars, the weather, and Washington. But what he didn't know was that his final segment would spark one of the most talked about moments in modern news history. Meghan Markle was booked for what NBC called a conversation about influence and image. It was meant to be calm, respectful, a chance for her to speak about her upcoming charity campaign. She arrived in a sleek cream suit, hair pulled back in that effortless Hollywood royal way, smiling for the cameras as the studio audience whispered with anticipation. When Lester Holt greeted her on air, it was polite, even warm. "Good evening, Meghan. Welcome to Nightly News." "Thank you, Lester. It's wonderful to be here," she replied, her voice carrying that measured tone she'd perfected over years of interviews. The opening questions were soft. The new foundation. The importance of women's empowerment. The journey from actress to advocate. Everything felt like a well-rehearsed dance, until Holt decided to stop following the choreography. "Meghan," he said, leaning forward, voice calm but sharper than before. "There have been reports suggesting that your recent appearances are less about charity and more about rebranding after a difficult year. How do you respond to critics who say this is a PR recovery tour?" A pause. The kind that eats seconds like hours. Meghan smiled, the kind of smile that hides irritation behind grace. "Well, Lester," she began, "I think when women take control of their own narratives, people sometimes get uncomfortable." The audience murmured softly. It was a good answer, polished, practiced. But Holt didn't move on. "Control of a narrative is one thing," he said evenly, "but transparency is another. Do you believe that openness includes addressing how your decisions have affected your family and your public role?" Her posture shifted. The tone of the room changed. The camera operators exchanged nervous looks, producers in the control room whispered through headsets. Meghan's voice hardened slightly. "I'm here to talk about the foundation, not tabloid speculation," she said. Holt nodded once, as though weighing his next words. Then came the moment. "Respectfully," he said, "this isn't tabloid speculation. This is about accountability. You've spoken about integrity and truth. Shouldn't that begin with facing criticism head-on?" Gasps rippled through the crew. Even seasoned journalists felt the chill in the air. Meghan blinked slowly, visibly fighting the urge to react. "This kind of question," she said, "is exactly why so many women in public life choose silence over honesty." And that's when Lester Holt did something few anchors ever do, he broke the rhythm of network diplomacy. "Silence can be a choice," he said, "but avoiding accountability is another. If truth is power, then it shouldn't need protection." The studio fell completely silent. It was the verbal equivalent of a gavel hitting the table, firm, final, undeniable. The producers cut to a wide shot. Meghan sat upright, her jaw tight but composed. "Then perhaps," she said, "we'll have to agree that truth comes in more than one form." Lester gave a small nod. "That's fair," he replied. Then, with perfect timing, he turned to camera 2. "Up next," he said, "a look at how American families are rebuilding trust in uncertain times." Fade to commercial. The tension didn't fade with the graphics. Inside the NBC control room, everyone was silent. The director whispered, "What just happened?" And outside, in living rooms across America, viewers were already replaying the exchange, uploading clips, captioning reactions, arguing online about who had won. Within minutes, social media exploded. #Holt vs Markle trended across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Commentators called it the clash of composure. Some said Holt was cruel. Others called it the most authentic moment in years of overmanaged interviews. Behind the scenes, NBC's communications team went into damage control. Statements were drafted, emails flew across time zones, and producers debated whether to cut the segment from rebroadcasts. But the clip was already viral, and nothing viral ever really dies. By the following morning, breakfast television was buzzing. Analysts praised Holt's professionalism. Others accused him of ambushing a guest. Entertainment networks dissected every pause, every glance, every flicker of eye contact. One outlet described it perfectly: two brands colliding, one built on truth, the other on image. For Lester Holt, it was another day in journalism, but for Meghan Markle, it became another battle in the endless war between control and perception. Her representatives released a statement later that afternoon. Meghan remains committed to open conversation and believes every exchange, even a challenging one, can lead to understanding. But understanding wasn't what people were tuning in for. They were drawn to the friction, the honesty, the unpredictability. In a world where most interviews feel choreographed, this one felt real. Days later, analysts called it a turning point, the moment live television remembered what authenticity looks like. And quietly, producers across networks began to rethink how far they could let a conversation go before stepping in. Behind closed doors, Holt reportedly told his staff, "I did my job. Nothing more, nothing less." There was no gloating, no regret, just the calm confidence of a man who spent decades asking uncomfortable questions. The clip continued to circulate, earning millions of views, re-edits, memes, even fan remixes set to dramatic music. And yet, beneath the noise, one question lingered. Why did this moment hit so hard? Perhaps it was because audiences are starving for truth, the kind that doesn't come from a press release or a polished statement. Or perhaps it was because, for a brief instant, the illusion cracked. The royal image, the network composure, the media mask, all peeled away to reveal two people simply trying to define what honesty means in front of the world. As the days passed, NBC Nightly News saw a surge in ratings. Meghan's foundation gained followers. And the internet, as always, moved on to the next storm. But that 5-minute segment stayed in people's minds like a question that wouldn't quit. When does an interview become a confrontation? And when does confrontation become truth? Weeks later, Holt addressed the topic subtly during another broadcast. He spoke of the role of journalists in an age of performance and the importance of uncomfortable honesty. He didn't name Meghan Markle. He didn't need to. The audience understood. As for Meghan, she reappeared months later in a glossy magazine profile. The article called her resilient, poised, unbothered. But readers noticed a line near the end that sounded almost like an echo. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones we never plan to have. That's how television legends are made, not through scripts, but through silence, through glances, through moments that make the air itself heavier. Moments when an anchor stops reading the teleprompter and starts asking the question that no one else dares to. For Story Vault, this wasn't just a clash between journalist and guest. It was a rare glimpse into how truth behaves when it's cornered by performance. Because in the end, truth doesn't explode, it erodes the space around it until there's nowhere left to hide. And that's exactly what viewers witnessed when Lester Holt faced Meghan Markle under the unforgiving lights of live television. The studio went silent that night. The cameras cut. But for millions watching, something inside had switched on, a reminder that news, when it's brave enough to ask the wrong question, still has the power to shake the world. And as the credits rolled, the city outside glowed against the Manhattan skyline, the same lights reflecting in the NBC windows where tomorrow's headlines were already being written. Channel outro, 5 luxury lines. 1. In a world that never stops spinning, truth still drives the wheel, and here, we chase it until the lights go dark. 2. Every story leaves an echo, in this vault, we keep them alive. 3.